Mighty Mercury.
What is going on, Mercury fans? I am your host, Erica Lee Day. Welcome back to PHX Mercury Podcast post-game edition, and a very good post-game edition, if I do not say so myself. You know, a few episodes ago, I said something about Mercury are going to go 44-0 until I'm convinced otherwise, and we're one game into the season, and let's just say I haven't been convinced. They just stormed past the Seattle Storm, winning 81-59, as our beloved on-screen graphic says. And shout out to Kevin Thomas for getting everything in order for this show. Big show for the PHX Mercury podcast today. Season opener, and I want to start this show by giving a huge shout out to the Phoenix Mercury for the way that they did introductions today. It was, I won't even say it was a production. It was a performance by the entire staff. I mean, they introduced the entire coaching staff, then they introduced every single player, all the backups and reserves, and obviously Kalia Copper was in the building. Looks like she was fresh off surgery, if I do say so myself. And you know, I'm in a really good mood considering the results of today's game, but about 7 to 8 hours ago, I probably wasn't in this great of a mood considering the news we received about Kalia Copper's and Natasha Mack's injury. If you watch this show, you are very familiar with how I feel about Natasha Mack. It's no question to any of you regular viewers that I believe in Mack's ability like no other. So to watch those two players go down so early in the season, well, not even so early in the season, literally before the season even started, definitely stinks. Injured her knee in camp, as Karen K in the comments says, out 4 to 6 weeks. And, you know, I was just talking about it with producer Kevin before the show, and, you know, she just had a scope. So more to come, more to find out, I'm sure, about that injury. But all that said, I'm not even going to dwell on that today because we have plenty of podcasts later this week to, you know, dwell on negative facts, and that is a negative fact. And we have lots of positive facts to discuss today. So I'm feeling absolutely jazzed right now. Jazz. Kevin's doing jazz hands over there behind the Mac right now, and it's accurate. It's how I'm feeling. I'm literally jittery right now. Satou Sabally, Alyssa Thomas's first official game in a Mercury uniform. You know, and actually, before I even go there, it was everybody's first game in a Mercury uniform, interestingly enough, because the only two returners that were on the roster are out with injury. So, you know, it was a fantastic showing from the Phoenix Mercury. I saw all over my timeline that, oh my goodness, we've been duped, and you have. Haha. The Phoenix Mercury may or may not be a really good team. And to, you know, storm past the Storm in the fashion in which they did, 81-59 without their leading scorer. Are you absolutely kidding me? Are you joking? I'm impressed. You know, Satou Sabally's ability to get into her spots, shoot the shots that she wanted to take was impeccable tonight. And then Alyssa Thomas. If you were unfamiliar as a Mercury fan with Alyssa Thomas, you better be familiar now, because the way that she was forcing her way to the basket over and over again and getting exactly what she wanted over and over again, I mean, what more can you ask for? And I'm probably going to be hammering this point all season, but a lot of you told me, oh, the Mercury need a point guard. Oh, the Mercury need a point guard. I'm going to be honest. The Mercury team that was out there tonight didn't look like they needed a point guard. It looks like, home S in the comments. I was nervous about this one, but not surprised at the outcome. People got to start putting some respect on the one and only engine. When will they learn? Heavy on the when will they learn. Because the engine showed up and showed out today. And we're going to go through the player of the game later in the episode. But, I mean, I got to start with Alyssa Thomas because she was really running the show for the Phoenix Mercury tonight. She was dishing. She was taking shots that she wanted to take. She was getting the free throw line. I mean, like I said, she was getting everything she wanted. Alyssa Thomas's official line, she was 8 for 13, played only 30 minutes, 61% from the field, 4 for 7. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That was her free throw. I'm so sorry. 8 for 13 on the night. So, yeah, 61% on the evening. And then the other shout out before I get to the player of the game later is Kathryn Westbeld, 29-year-old rookie. And didn't miss a shot for the first quarter, was a perfect 2 for 2. And then, landed at 3 for 5 at the end of the game, but 5 rebounds, an assist, and a steal on her stat line. Again, first WNBA game, and she is a 29-year-old rookie. People got to start putting some respect on the quote-unquote bench of this team. And I say quote-unquote because they were not supposed to be in the game tonight. Kathryn Westbeld was not supposed to be in the starting lineup for the Phoenix Mercury tonight. It was a great start for the team that is building chemistry, like I see in the comments everybody's talking about. Yeah, great start for a team that's literally played no games together. And, it can really only go up from here. I'm feeling absolutely jazzed. So, Kevin, can we get by the numbers? Thank you. So, as you can see, the Mercury beat out the Storm in every category. Field goal percentage, 51%, comparatively to the Storm's 33%. 33% from 3 compared to the Storm's 17%, 17 turnovers compared to the Storm's 13, 38 rebounds to the Storm's 29, and 20 assists compared to the Storm's 16. And obviously, tough because the Storm only scored 59 points, so don't expect them to have too many in that assist category especially. But the Mercury did their job tonight. And they took care of the basketball, which is what Nate Tibbetts talked about pregame. He wanted to do that. He wanted to make sure that turnovers weren't, a problem for this team. And at a few points, they were. I think in the first quarter, let me see. Woo. Yeah, first quarter was tough considering the Mercury had 6 of their 17 turnovers in the first quarter. So, I think they picked it up from there. And, I'm not pressed about these turnovers. We've talked a lot about how chemistry comes with time. And so I think the turnovers will be a thing of the past come just, a couple weeks from now. Hello to all of you guys in the comments. My mom, Andy, Maria, Danny, who I've met over on the Blue Sky and on the court at PHX Arena. Shout out to all of you guys for joining our first post-game of the season. Hopefully not our last. So, huge shouts to all of you guys for being here tonight. But this team, I mean, the bench did everything that the bench you wanted the bench to do. It was a very impressive showing from this Phoenix Mercury group. Satou Sabally. Satou freaking Sabally. Franchise record in debut points with 27 points. And also 3 stocks, 6 rebounds. We can just get, thank you, Kevin. 9 for 17 on her made field goals tonight. And that 3 in the stocks category, she wins PHX player of the game tonight, an X factor of the game, if you will. She said in her post-game interview that BG called and said to say hi to everyone in the locker room, and I'm sure that just incited the utmost confidence in her. How can you not when a franchise pillar is calling you pregame to wish you good luck and to tell the entire locker room hello? I mean, it's just a sign of, the times here in Phoenix. This is a new era, and this team came out and proved that just because this is a new era, it's not a quote-unquote rebuild. It's already been rebuilt. And they're here to stay. They're here to contend. And they're here to be real players this season. So, I'm really, really excited about what I saw from the Mercury tonight. I'd love to hear you guys' sound off in the comments. Yeah, 5 rookie played today. Impressive. I'm not sure exactly who Andy is talking about, but could hardly ask for a better transition into the new era of Mercury basketball. Did the OGs right. And that's with the OGs in the house. I mean, Yes, you're correct. This is no better way to transition into the new era of Mercury basketball. And when you're able, when I got to the studio today, Kevin said, are the Mercury good or are the Storm bad? And I said, Kevin, no. This Storm team is going to be really good, probably. And the fact that this Mercury squad was able to show up the way they were in game 1 versus them, I was very, very impressed. A couple of super chats already tonight, and so we'll start with Maria's. Let's go. Great way to start the season. Thank you, Maria Dior Lawson. And then my guy, TMB, Tyler McDowell Blanken. Go Erica, go Satou, go Tosh. Yo, that's a soft spot for me, okay? Not too much on the Tosh cloud on the show, okay? Go Merc. Heavy on the go Merc. Yeah, it was a really, really exciting day in terms of WNBA action. From starting the day off with the ring ceremony in New York, watching them take the dub over the Aces, and then the Fevers win over the Sky, and now on to the Mercury's W over the Storm in dramatic fashion. I mean, this was probably the best Mercury game I've seen since before Kalia's back injury last year, and I think that is really, saying something considering Kalia did not play in today's game. So, I'm optimistic about the Mercury's future. I can't say that I am shocked by the outcome, but, a lot of people told me, oh, this isn't going to be a good team. The manure strip comment from Nate Tibbetts is going to age poorly. And we're one game in, and the team has proven to, play exactly the style of basketball that Nate Tibbetts wanted them to play. They played fast. They got what they wanted in transition. They stole the ball, okay? I should actually just go ahead and pull this up in another way. But fun fact for you guys, I travel up from Tucson every single day, and I've brought the wrong computer with me today. And this is extra funny considering the last time I was in studio, I told Kevin, I was like, dang, I wish I brought my other computer. I have a lot of free time, and I wanted to play a game on my computer. And now I'm in studio with only my game and literally nothing else that I need. So
just the game and the experience of having watched Satou Sabally in a Mercury jersey for the first time. And what Kevin, else do you really need, though?
I mean, Kevin, how amped were you about what you saw from Satou tonight?
Over the moon. Almost just completely combusted into a billion pieces, like the Thanos snap. You know what I mean? Just like dissipated. I feel like I can die a happy man now, honestly. But no, honestly, on a basketball point, Satou's like shot creation and shot making was like, I know she's an incredible player, but truly impressive. You said it earlier, like getting to any spot she wanted to at will. And it only was boosted by what AT brings to the table and like the attention that she takes away and the gravity that she has. So,
well, and in regards to AT, she was responsible for the first 9 of the Mercury's 10 points. I mean, that tells you what type of player that Alyssa Thomas is and what she's willing to do for this Mercury basketball team. And that kind of goes to my point of, so many people told me, oh, they're going to need a point guard. And, I don't think enough respect was being put on the fact that Alyssa Thomas can play the role of a point guard without actually playing point guard. And so, it's a point guard by committee, I think, by this team, which is very interesting, but I'm not stressed about that. And we got Steven calling in already. Wow, absolutely. This is going incredibly well. Is he coming right now? Oh, yeah. Steven Pridgeon Garner, PG1, QB1, on and off the field, in and out of the studio, literally out of the studio today. Yes, bark, bark, bark. I'm barking for Satou. I'm barking for Steven. I'm barking for AT. I'm barking for all of it. I feel like Steven's eardrums are getting blown out by my screaming in his ear right now.
But I'm okay.
How are the vibes there at PHX Arena?
The vibes were extremely high. If anybody saw the video you posted from post game, everybody was rocking pretty much from the halfway point of the second quarter through the final buzzer and everything that happened after that. So nice, very loud, very energetic tone set from X Factor and in PHX Arena, and I think it's going to be a style of play that they can sustain and kind of copy and paste in different respects, but generally having that same engaging activity on a game-to-game basis.
Well, and interesting you bring that up because a lot of people have talked to me about Kaw's usage rate last year, specifically, in regards to her injury. And I don't think that that's going to be a similar issue this year for any individual person on this team. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that significantly. I think that's some of the benefit of having a big three is that you don't have to overexert or over rely on one specific part of that group, and it should make for obviously making job on offense easier, lessening the load on each other defensively because all three of those players have a defensive ceiling that they can reach that's impactful, and just generally speaking, that should help to kind of mitigate some of the injury. This fly is crazy. Some of the injury things that might potentially come up when you have to kind of overuse certain players. I don't know where this fly just came from. It was not in here the last like 10 minutes. But
I'm dying, but
flies making cameos on post game. That's the first.
It's first post game of the season, and the Fly just wanted to make his presence known. He wanted to know that he was important and welcome in our chat as well. And honestly, Fly, if you want to stick around, just make sure you leave a like and a comment, and you can stay.
He can do that from outside of the room that I'm in, and then we can all be friends after that.
Well, Steven, I'm so glad you're here because I wanted to talk to you specifically about the team's defense. It's been a focal point in the offseason, and I wanted to know from your perspective, what did you see out of this team's defense tonight that maybe we didn't see last season, or is something that they obviously desired to do that they were successful at tonight?
Yeah, I mean, everything with the Mercury defensively is going to start with Alyssa Thomas. And for all of it that it starts with Alyssa, like 90% of it is going to finish with her in some capacity. Whether she's simply grabbing a rebound to put that period at the end of their defensive sentences, like I always speak to, or if she's literally involved directly in action as a helper or as a primary defender. And her activity, her IQ, her high level effective and preemptive communication skills on the fly, it infuses confidence in everybody that shares the floor with her. And I think the defensive ceiling for this team rests on the shoulders of all of the all-time greatness that Alyssa Thomas is to the defensive end of the floor. And honestly, I think she maybe potentially, for as much as a defensive player of the year candidate that she's been pretty much her entire career, she might be best set up for success in that with this Mercury team. I know it's one game that we're speaking on, so we don't want to overreact, but there is no overreacting when you're talking about Alyssa Thomas defending because one thing she's going to do is be consistent and ever present on that end, and it's going to help everybody else be better at their respective jobs because of it.
On the stat sheet, it only says 2 steals, but it feels like every other player's steal was impacted by Alyssa Thomas in some way, whether she was kind of starting the steal and the other player was finishing it or vice versa. It felt like Alyssa Thomas's hands were just everywhere, and it was a pretty impressive sight to see, honestly.
It was, and that's what I'm speaking to with her, whether she's defending on the ball, whether she's off the ball, even if she's on the sideline, the way that she communicates is just infectious. And honestly, she brings a joy and a passion to where if you're one of the 4 players that's on the court with her on defense, you literally don't have a choice but to play with the best energy and activity that you can possibly bring. That's going to parlay into the other 3 players outside of that player and Alyssa that are on the floor. And again, if you multiply that for all of the minutes and all of the possessions that she spends on the defensive end, you see why she's such a great defender. And she just infuses confidence in everybody because of her preparation and because of how steady she is on that end. And I think the communication just emanates from all that happens before the game actually starts. So again, I think she's going to be a defensive player of the year candidate again. That's not breaking news in any capacity. But I think that she'll also have in tandem with her a bunch of teammates that are going to continue to pick up the baton off of the tone that she sets on a possession-by-possession basis.
Well, period. And then, we got to talk about Satou, obviously. Getting in her spots, doing Satou things out there. I've already showed the, player of the game graphic, 27 points, which is a franchise record for most points in a debut as a Phoenix Mercury. Impressive stuff that we saw from Satou Sabally tonight. And I mean, do you think that this is kind of just the beginning for Satou as a Phoenix Mercury?
Yeah, most definitely, and I think that's it right there. It's just the beginning, and you saw how impactful, you saw how dominant, you saw how ever present she was on the offensive end of the floor. Every single time that Seattle decided to switch a screen that was set for her, she immediately walked whoever it was that switched off of her, that got switched onto her, right to the middle of the paint or to the block, quick seal, and you got one of her two hands just wide open like a wide receiver that just, broke open on the route. And she's getting that ball. Her teammates did a great job getting it to her while the advantage was created, and she was going up with it immediately. In addition to that, you look at it and when she's coming off of handoffs and then pick and roll, if the switches were not sharp, if the coverage wasn't sharp on ball, she was not hesitating to let it fly. And I mean, needless to say, Nate loves to see his players let it fly and let it fly as much as they possibly can. He jokingly, but a half jokingly, because I think he was also being honest. He said that he wanted to see between her and Sammy who would take the most threes, especially considering Kalia Copper wasn't in the lineup today. And Satou got up to 9. And that's a number that we spoke to before the season started, before training camp started. We said that for the Mercury offense and for the Mercury as a team to reach their ceiling, Satou has to be consistent in taking the 3-point shots on efficiency that she had last season, where she shot 45%, but add another 2 to 3 attempts. So she shot that 45% on 5.5 attempts last season. You look at her shooting 9, that's the space that Nate wants her to be operating in. And whether she's knocking down 4 or 5 of those 9, or she's knocking down just 2 or 3, he needs her to take those shots because that can become a pressure point for them to then either dictate with or counterpunch off of based off of how defenses guard her.
Well, and then to Andrew in the comments point, everyone did kind of get on the boards. There's only 2 players that played in today's game that only finished. Oh, I'm sorry. Only 1 player that played in today's game that only finished with 1 rebound. So it was kind of a rebound by committee type of night, which is what you want to see.
It is. That's exactly what you want to see because you could play the most sensational defense. You could have the perfect scheme. You could have the exact personnel to take things away from your opponents. You can put out great contests. Everything could be sensational, but if you're not able to stop the possession by grabbing those rebounds, it's going to be all for almost nothing because you're going to be playing 48 to 60 something some odd seconds on defense. And when you get to doing that multiple times, potentially in a row, if not over the course of a game, you leave yourself with no margin for error in terms of the shots on goal battle. That margin is important as any other over the course of a game. And just generally having confidence. Because what confidence can you have if you get the stop initially and then you just can't grab the rebound and then your opponent still end up scoring even if it does take an extra possession?
Hi, Steven. Long-time listener, first-time question asker. Can you talk about the defensive effort?
Can I get your name, please?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Like I said, it's my first time. I'm very nervous, you know what I'm saying? Like a ball knower like you. My name's Kevin Thomas from PHX.
There you go.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the defensive effort, Steven? Because, like, they were on Seattle from the tip-off in this one. Like, I believe they jumped out to, what was it, like a 9-2 or 12-2, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, like, the overall team defensive effort in this one?
Yeah, that's the side of the ball that this team is wanting to push all of their chips in on. They believe that their defense is going to lead them in terms of their team identity, and we saw just that. I believe it was the second quarter was extremely active in terms of their defense, but it was especially that third quarter stretch where they go on a 13-3 run, I think around like the 8-minute mark, and that was what put the game to its highest lead in terms of getting up to 20, and then they were able to kind of put it in cruise control from there. But that specific stretch in particular where it's Alyssa Thomas roaming around and helping, just cutting off things, putting fires out. It's Satou Sabally switching on the people, guarding Nneka Ogwumike on one end and then going down and scoring on Nneka Ogwumike on the other. And just little moments like that. Monique Akua Makani doing a great job navigating screens and just staying attached to Skylar Diggins-Smith to where if she makes a shot, she's having to worry about creating separation and then putting up a tough contested too, which is a shot that they'll always live with. Just little things like that, but multiplying it across numerous possessions and then also get multiple efforts from players like Kathryn Westbeld in particular, another player that's in their first game in the W, first start, and absolutely no signs of butterflies in any capacity. Comes out, gets a steal early in the game against NECA, and then comes down and knocks down a three the very next possession on offense in the sequence. And just speaks to how prepared this team was. And all of it starting with the defensive end of the floor and allowing for that to set the tone for the game, and then their offense playing off of that time after time after time. And that's a form of play that gets your crowd engaged. You know, X Factor is begging for reasons to cheer. And needless to say, they left them with nothing more that they can ask for, starting with the defensive end of the floor and parlaying those efforts into the offense.
Well, and I was actually going to ask you, before we get into the post-game clips, I wanted to ask you, you've had the benefit that I don't have of having been to other WNBA environments. And this was your first regular season Mercury game outside of the Die Hard events last year, right? So
Yep.
This was your first season opener here in the Valley. What did you think of I called it a production earlier, which was how they started the game. What did you think of the atmosphere in PHX Arena for the season opener?
Yeah, I would say outside of playoff games, because obviously the stakes are a lot higher. You can't compare that to a regular season game. This was one of the two or three most kind of crowd engaged levels that I've been able to assess from a media member's perspective in the W. And it started before the game, to your point, where the production team sets the tone with all of these clips from practice, all of these candid responses from the big three, and Kalia especially speaking to what it means to be a Phoenix Mercury player, what that tradition is, what the culture is, what the responsibility is, and how she hopes to kind of carry that torch into this new era. And the way that I just kind of happened to peek around the crowd as Kalia's up there talking, and the way that she had held the attention of everybody that was standing up as they watched it, it was amazing. It was cinematic, quite honestly. And to see that set the tone, and then them obviously introduce each player, and then see the tone that they set to start the game with the defense and the activity. I mean, what more can you ask for? If this is the worst that the Mercury looked this season, especially on the defensive end of the floor, we're going to be talking about a team that's reaching a lot of the goals that they're hoping to check off by the end of whenever their season ends this year.
Well, you know, I said earlier in the pod, I am still not convinced this team isn't going 44-0, you know?
One step at a time, but I mean, you going 1-0 definitely suggests that you can head that direction.
I mean, there's still a chance, you know what I mean? So I'm hopeful, you know what I mean? I mean, where can you go wrong?
Yeah, that's very true. Also, I gotta make sure we shout out, because we won't talk about Natasha Mack because she obviously didn't play because of her back injury, which if you didn't know already, she'll be back. They say as early as 2 weeks. So look at June 1st when they play the Los Angeles Sparks in Los Angeles as kind of the window where you can expect to see Mack Truck back on the court for the Mercury. But to see her and all of her activity when her name was announced for the players pregame, and then also see what she was able to kind of do in terms of making Alyssa Thomas feel more comfortable postgame as she spoke to the crowd. I think all those little things matter. It speaks to where this team is, and it also speaks to the comfortability of Natasha Mack. So obviously we're waiting to see her back on the court, but she is very comfortable here in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's weird because it kind of feels like she's like the fourth piece, the big four, to just keep things connected. And, you know, she's kind of taking on that, not exactly, but the coach DT role from the bench. And she's just inciting confidence into everyone. And obviously Kalia is over there limping on her freaking crutch. You have to feel for her. It looks like she had the freaking scope this morning, you know what I mean? And here she has to come wobbling into the arena to pick up her USA ring, which congrats to her for huge accomplishment there. But definitely a fun sight to see from the bench tonight in the arena.
Yeah, it was. It's tough to see Kyle like that because I genuinely haven't seen her like really even injured, yet alone on a crutch. That's tough. You could tell this was like a newer experience for her, but she still made sure to give energy. And I think that her, like, most of the time when players like are on crutches and it's like a recent development, you usually won't see them around the bench area. They might be, somewhere else in the arena watching the game. But for Kai to be so engaged and involved with the team in the ways that she was, it just speaks to, again, the leadership part. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And her always being there, showing up and being active with her voice, if not with her voice and her efforts, that's the exact type of tone that she set. Alyssa Thomas has been locked to the hip with her in terms of the leadership. Satou's chipped in the ways that are respective to her. Sammy Wickham has chipped in the ways respective to her as well. And you see the kind of new culture that they're establishing and how it's kind of resonating not just with the rest of their teammates, but also with the fan base.
Well, and we got all that post-game clips and way, way more coming right after this quick break. Everyone needs a checking account. Get the account with built-in benefits. Mountain America's MyStyle checking account has just the perks for you. You can enjoy restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection, loan rate discounts, offers on travel and events, and so much more. Make MyStyle your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/mystyle to apply. Insured by NCUA, membership is required based on eligibility. Some benefits require no-cost registration/activation. Terms, condition, and exclusions apply. And obviously, I drove all the way here from Tucson. Obviously, I got to give a big shout out to my friends over at Circle K. Bark, bark, bark. What do you not love about Circle K? Inner Circle, all you have to do is have the app, put in your phone number, your email address, and you get 25 cents off a gallon for the first 5 fill-ups that you have the freaking app, and then 3 cents a gallon every gallon after that. It's just a deal you cannot beat in this economy, especially 79-cent Polar Pops. I mean, where else are you going to get your cheap beveraginos after a huge Mercury W? I know you're parched after all your yelling and screaming in the arena, so just head over to Circle K. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details.
I feel like you and Steven should do like a little Circle K bet over the course of the season for some sort of snack and a drink combo or something.
I haven't even talked about my counter. Oh my gosh. I'm like jazzed that I have left this and I have even forgotten about it. Last year I beat a nail, like a dead horse. I mean, I posted this dang picture of Nate Tibbetts so freaking much that once you saw it, you just knew that he won a challenge, and that's okay. That's okay with me. That's how I intended it. That's how God intended it, is for when you saw that picture of Nate Tibbetts on your timeline, you knew he won a challenge. And so this year, we're implementing a girl dad coaches challenge counter, and Kevin's got it cooked up for us already. Look at that green light. Oh, hoo, hoo. My boy is 1-0. I cannot express to you how jazzed I am about this. Steven and I were kind of hee-hee-ha-haing it up about it during the game. The departure of Tosh Cloud, tough on me. Okay, it was really tough on my ethos. I was not doing well in that department, but fortunately, she transferred all of her chaotic energy to our head coach, Nate Tibbetts himself. And you could see it on the sidelines. There's a video going around. Kevin said we're not allowed to show it, but there's this video going around from the broadcast of today's game where the Seattle Storm is about to inbound the ball. And Nate Tibbetts is standing in front of the Storm players saying, no, you are not inbounding the ball. And then went and challenged the dang play and wins the challenge. When I tell you I was hype, it was the only time during the whole game I to myself, because how jazzed can you be? And it's a challenge that I didn't really want Nate Tibbetts to do. I'm like, we're a quarter into the game. It's just a possession thing. Like, can we just move on? Like, you're gonna get the ball back. Your defense is as good as Steven's been yapping about for the last 15 minutes. So, you're gonna get the dang ball back. But once he won it, I was like, dang, he's going to bat for the squad, and I love it. So huge shouts to Girl Dad. He's on the way to being one of the top coaches in the league, and it's awesome to see. So yeah, like Maria said in the comments, Nate does love a good challenge, and I think he'll single-handedly hold down the team for racking up record-setting techs. That's hilarious. I actually hope that's not true, because what?
I'll say too. He mentioned a little bit about that specific instance in post game, and he said he was proud of himself because last year he said he would go a little rogue essentially and not confirm with his department of heads that are looking at the play live to let him know whether he should or shouldn't. He said he was a bit too reactionary kind of in the moment, and he said he's kind of built up some resolve to where he caught himself in a moment a couple of times, and I kind of watched that specific relationship between him and the assistant with the iPad that's watching the replays live. He's like resisting like a little kid that wants to go get that cookie out the jar, but knows they have to ask before they go and do that. And he didn't ignore that part of that process today. And he said he was proud of himself for not going and ignoring that part of the process. So everybody's growing, everybody's buying into what the front office wants for Nate to do in that instance to obviously the efforts of the players on the court.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Y'all know I'm a big girl dad believer personally, so I don't need to be instructed to believe when he waves his finger, I'm bought in. Okay, so with all that being said, Steven's done heavy boots on the ground work tonight and got us some impeccable post-game clips. And so I'm really excited to get to those. Obviously, we're going to, I'm sure, hear about the defense and then Satou's ridiculous performance. So without further ado, Steven, what do you got for us?
Yeah, we could go ahead and start first with Nate. We had some fun with Nate. There was a lot of different things we could have chose from as far as post game clips, but the first one I wanted to speak to was him speaking about the defense and just how he felt that set the tone for them and how it kind of parlayed into the efficiency that we saw from them on offense.
Guard, we know we need to get better. Each and every game, I thought it was a really good job from our group coming out and setting the tone. I really liked what our guards did on the ball, and I thought our bigs were just fantastic in pick and roll. We made it tough on them all night.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They put pressure on all of Seattle's guards, or honestly, not even just the guards in pick and roll, but they took away rollers. They did a good job tagging rollers and not just kind of touching them, but literally putting two hands on them. And they defended perfectly to scheme. Seattle is a team that does not have many threats from the three-point line in particular. And, I mean, we saw that in terms of their numbers from tonight's game and their three-point shooting. At halftime, they were 1 for 10. And I believe they only ended with a couple of makes from deep. So
3 for 17.
knowing – correct. So knowing this as a weakness of the offense of the Seattle Storm, the Mercury did a great job of kind of crowding the paint, protecting it as much as they could, and doing a good job with that first and then rotating out to shooters, but not doing so to where they were going to compromise and concede opportunities to get paint touches. So job well done in execution alone of the game plan. And then you look at the multiple efforts. We talked about Kathryn Westbeld defending in the post with Nneka Ogwumike in her first start. That's a Hall of Fame all-time great. And your reward for your first start is going to guard Nneka Ogwumike, and she did a great job in doing so. And then obviously parlaying that effort into scoring on the other end, like we talked about in the first quarter. Same thing with Satou Sabally. Obviously, Alyssa Thomas brought it defensively. Monique brought it defensively as well. There was no player in their main rotation that did not have multiple instances where we saw their efforts turn into successful stops on defense.
Even Sevgi Uzun, I was very impressed with her very active hands on the defense. And like you said, it all stems from the vocality of the leader on the floor and whoever that is at the time, whether it's Satou or Alyssa. And it just showed throughout the entire roster tonight.
Real quick, Steven, before you go in there, what do we rate Erica's pronunciation of that name out of 10?
Say it again, Erica.
Sevgi Uzun.
She got it perfect. 10 out of 10.
Bark. Kevin wants to prove me wrong so dang bad.
I just love pronunciation games. It's one of my favorite.
There are other names on this roster that trust and believe you can make fun of. Just my pronunciation, not the names.
We could do a pronunciation of the game for every post game. I'll pick a player from either the Mercury or their opposing roster, and we'll do a little pronunciation game, Erica.
Okay.
Nice.
That sounds really fun, Kevin.
We'll track your record over the course of the year, and we'll see how you do.
I'm really excited for this.
1-0, just like Girl Dad.
Yes! Oh my goodness. And I'm going to end 44-0, just like Girl Dad. Bark.
Well, speaking of Nate, he had a lot to say about Kathryn Westbeld and just the ways in which she helped uphold the style of play that he wanted them to play to, with obviously the injuries to Mack and Kalia Copper and them not being available for this game. So here's Coach Tibbetts on everything that Kathryn Westbeld was in the lineup for them tonight.
I thought she did fantastic. I'll give Kat a bunch of credit. I would say her training camp practices were just okay to start. But every game that we've played, she's played well, and she knows what to do. She's the ultimate professional. She competes, she can make a shot. We wanted a starter so we could have AT as, kind of the 4 and Satou as the 3 instead of bumping everything down. And then we wanted to play Kalani against Yuru. We thought that was going to be important. But yeah, I mean, Kat started the game extremely well, hit some big shots, and then in the third quarter, I just couldn't take her out because she was doing everything right, and she played 10 minutes straight. She probably needed one at the end of the third, so we gave her one.
Yeah, 9 points, 5 rebounds, an assist, a steal, knocked down 2 3-pointers. She was just ever present. She was active, and she found ways to just chip in and make things work. And that bodes extremely well in terms of what her role and her potential minute total will be when the team is back healthy. But as a tone setter, you have to throw a player into the fire. That's adversity. You get to learn a lot about somebody by how they respond to that. She was clearly challenged in terms of being given a starting role today, and challenged in a literal sense by who she was going to be going up against in that opposing front court between Nneka Ogwumike and Ezzie Mack, but going in particular. Two all-stars, two all-stars, and then one of which is, like we talked about earlier, a Hall of Famer, all-time great. And Kathryn was very much up to the job. And I think that that's something that's going to be built around for this team, because they know that once they get into their reserve units, Kathryn is going to be a plus for them in multiple capacities. And I think last thing on her for me, it's the IQ. She doesn't feel like she's overwhelmed in any capacity by what's going on, whether it be them playing defensively to a scheme or in their read and react style of play on offense. She just understands how to figure things out, and she's a player that's highly skilled. And when you have someone that matches their skill set with the IQ part, you have somebody that you can win with.
You know what I love so much about this? I say young as we're talking about a 29-year-old rookie, but I love this team of quote unquote inexperienced W players, because it feels like they all come out. Well, and I know we're only got one game in, people, but it feels like they all came out tonight with something to prove and proved it and left it all out on the floor. And so I think when you have a team like that that has so much to prove and is trying to prove that they belong in a league that is very tough to belong in, and they're doing it tonight against a group of, like the comments say, proven veterans. I mean, we're talking about El Presidente of the league herself, Nneka Ogwumike. Like, this is not a hee-ha-ha squad in the Seattle Storm. Like, this is a serious, this is a playoff squad in the Seattle Storm. And they really went out and left it all out there. And, what more can you ask for from a young team?
Yeah, exactly. And again, especially when you have to throw players in the fire in an off-script fashion, it's like, yeah, I know we brought you in for this role, but this role is not available right now because of injury. So can you step up and do more? And the ability to have that adaptability amongst the players that are in your rotation, that speaks to a team that's going to be able to win at specific levels when new adversity hits over the course of the season. And again, what better tone to set than to see the efforts that players like Mo brought in at the point guard position, having to go and guard Skylar Diggins-Smith, one of the all-time great players in the league, especially at the guard position, but also generally, and do so well. And then obviously, like we're talking about with Kathryn and her specific matchup, again, just great things that we saw from them. And I think that more than anything else, a lot of their efforts aligned with the side of the basketball that the Mercury, like I said, are pushing all of their chips into, and that's on the defensive end of the floor.
Well, and I want to wrap up the discussion with the defense real quick, because I know you've got one more clip regarding the defense, right?
A little bit later, yeah, when we get to Satou, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, the switching from her and Alyssa, because we're about to roll into our last bit of conversation about Satou right now. I mean, the activity from the two of them on the defensive end was obvious from the eye test, but then also showed up on the stat sheet as well. What did they have to say about that?
Yeah, Satou spoke to just time under attention and being able to spend that time just guarding and spending that time on the court with Alyssa Thomas, understanding what she likes to do defensively, understanding how to work off of that, understanding where she can be herself around Alyssa, understanding how she can be more aggressive, honestly, with her defense, because you have someone that sees the game the same way that you do and can kind of replicate the things that you do when you're not in position to do that. And I think that there's a lot of kindred spirit dynamics between Alyssa and Satou. And Satou had a lot to say about that post game.
We've been told the whole time in practice, have your hand up, be physical, set the tone on defense. And she does that every day, and I really do that too. So just communicating among these pick and rolls, having Mo out there that's like really pressuring Sky. That's big. Having Kalani out there to clean everything up in the end, that's super big. And I think we were all on one string. So it's really not just two players because there are 5 players on the court. It was really like a 5-string defense.
In addition to the defense with Satou, she also was 3 for 9 from deep in today's game. And I think that
2 for 2, and like
she
setting the
started 2 for
tone is
2.
so important for her.
Yeah. And the different context that she's getting her shots in. She's getting shots off of playing with Alyssa Thomas. She's getting shots in movement. She's pulling up when the defense is soft. She's in a very, very confident space right now. And she's also doing so in alignment with the shot profile that Nate Tibbetts is hoping for her to establish as a mainstay in a game-to-game basis. So here is Satou Sabally speaking to the space that she's operating in on offense.
I was feeling it. I was hot, but we were also working for it the whole time in practice camp. I tell you guys, we were definitely being worked out and all these extra shots that you take too. So obviously I was hot today. Next game it might be another player, but I think we really built an offense that enables us to be ourselves. And the ball. I like to see the ball going in.
So Erica, question for you. How did you feel about Satou's first impressions in the regular season debut on the offensive end for the Phoenix Mercury?
Personally, I felt like I was watching her out there as an Oregon Duck, which is my favorite version of Satou Sabally. And, as a Pac-12er myself, I was just, it took everything in me to not be barking next to you, Steven.
That's hilarious.
I have to maintain a certain level of professionalism. I mean, dang.
Yeah, I feel you, especially when she's filling her up the way that she was on the offensive end to the tune of 27 points tonight. Honestly, it gets to a point where Satou's just so good, you start to run out of things to say in terms of adjectives. So we're going to just talk about the play on the court. We talked about her ducking in whenever they switched with her and taking smaller players into the post, scoring, and then on the way down the court to defense, she's letting them know that they're too small with a gesture that everybody, I think, knows at this point and what that looks like. And she has like a little trot to her step when she's doing it going down court. And there's nothing you can do about it because most people are genuinely too small to guard her. She has such a confidence that she's operating with in this offense from Nate Tibbetts. And when you're talking about so much newness, that's one of the biggest kind of telltale signs of where the team is. If she's got the ball, is she looking around? Is she thinking the game through? Or is she just simply playing off of instinct? And there's been a lot of conversations about positionless basketball, this, and read and react offense, that. That's the exact response that read and react offense is what a coach is going to be hoping to see from his players. Players just out there playing off a field. Yes, you have principles that you're going to abide by. Yes, you have some certain rules in certain situations that you're going to kind of play to. But if players are doing less thinking and more playing off of feel, off of instinct, off of a shared IQ with the other players on the court, you leave a defense with no time to kind of make up for the advantages that you can create. And we're going to get to some of the other pressure type of situations that their offense can put on people. But I think that Satou's confidence, in addition to Alyssa, who we'll get to next, those are direct examples of the space that their team is operating in on offense and a confidence within everything that they're trying to build towards.
Well, and to your point, it kind of reminds me of early last season Kalia Copper.
Yep, I'm glad you
And
said it. Mm-hmm.
like, and I hate to be this person, but it does nothing but incite confidence in me about who's at the helm of this franchise right now, because he's now put two ridiculous players in some of the best headspaces we've ever seen them at the beginning of the season. And so I don't think there's more that you can ask for from a coaching staff. And like to your point, again, the headspace that Satou is in right now cannot really be taken away from her. And so I think this really is only the beginning for this quote unquote big three. You know, we're rocking with the big two right now, but the big two are proven to be loud and very big.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like genuinely, it's tough to match up with the Mercury. Again, like when you talk about the matchups, you want to kind of talk about Alyssa Thomas first because she spearheads so much. But looking at Satou while we're on topic, most of the players that you will want to guard Satou for your team, if you're an opposing team, are likely going to be guarding Alyssa Thomas first with this Mercury team. That's going to put Satou in position to have somebody that's either smaller, not quick enough, or potentially both to guard her in the multiple contexts and spaces that she likes to operate in. And she hasn't met a shot that she doesn't feel comfortable taking, whether that be from three, whether that be from the in-between game, or that be in the post and at the rim. And she can navigate there without the need for someone passing her the ball because her handle is very tight. She's a unicorn for multiple reasons. And that unicorn dynamic puts a strain, it puts a pressure on the defense. And we're talking about that coming sometimes after you've already had to try to guard Alyssa Thomas in the primary action. And when Kalia Copper comes back, that might come after you've tried to or may have potentially successfully guarded Kalia in the action, and she kicks it to Satou. And it's like, oh, yeah, the job is not done because now you have to go and guard someone else that's an all-star, all WNBA caliber talent in and of themselves. It's just hard. They put so much pressure on opponents, and they leave them with minimal margin for error. And when they're moving the ball the way that they did tonight, in addition to their individual talents, that makes for a team that can be truly elite in this WNBA.
Well, and we're going to get to AT real quick right after I ask Steven this question. Last year, the Mercury were, in my opinion, at the beginning of the season, one of the most exciting teams to watch. They moved the ball really well. They did what they're doing tonight. And I think, 20-ish games into the season, the scouts figured it out. And they figured out how to stop the Mercury. Do you think that this, obviously we're only one game in, so I am getting really excited. So I'm sorry about my optimism, everybody, okay? I'm sorry that I enjoy positivity. My apologies.
Bark, bark.
But do you think that this team is going to have that similar issue where we're halfway into the season and their number has been called and the scouts are able to figure it out? Or do you think the options are there's so many plethora of options for this team that maybe it won't be a similar issue halfway through the season?
No, I don't think it'll be an issue for them this season. And I'll kind of politely redirect the conversation to the defense first. Because if they're playing off of as many stops as they were able to compile tonight, the half-court offense becomes that much easier to navigate because there's a certain rhythm to the game that's established by you dictating with your defense. Deflection, steals, block shots, consistently grabbing rebounds. Like those things all add up and they parlay into momentum. And when that momentum is spearheaded by someone like Alyssa Thomas, who's also often spearheading the offense as well, that just makes for so much to deal with. You can copy and paste that dynamic to Kalia Copper and Satou Sabally as well. So because of the strength and the sustainability of their defense in terms of playing an active style that's going to put pressure on their opponents and force them into turnovers and kind of help them win the marginal statistics over the course of the game, they're going to be right where they hope to be on offense when that defense hits the level that it needs to. And again, everything comes back to their big three and all three of those players being bought in on the identity side of the ball being the defense for them.
Well, you just incited all the confidence in me that I needed. So without further ado, let's hear from our engine herself, Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah. Alyssa is fun. She's just genuinely fun. I would kindly implore for people to take a couple of possessions a game on offense and defense and only watch Alyssa Thomas. Only watch her.
We,
Rebounds,
I mean,
steals.
between the preseason game and this game, there were multiple times during the games where we just look at each other and are laughing about what Alyssa is doing, whether she's smiling because she's about to hit and screen the crap out of somebody, literally, or she is just hee-hee-ha-haing her way up the court to get an easy bucket and a layup. She is just out there making us laugh the entire time by just being herself.
Yeah, I think to your point, maybe the funniest part was, and which is going to be on topic and leading to the response we're going to get to from Alyssa. She's running these inverted pick and rolls, which if you haven't seen, we did a film session on prior to the start of tonight's game, just kind of diving into the details, getting some conversations from players and coaches as well on Alyssa's ability to run pick and roll. It's the third quarter, and the Seattle Storm are cycling through matchups and different types of schemes to try to figure out how to stop Alyssa Thomas in this inverted pick and roll. None of it really worked. And the kind of last-ditch effort was for the guards when they're in show and recover on Alyssa Thomas. So Alyssa gets a screen from one of the Mercury guards. One of the Storm guards kind of steps out to make sure she can't turn the corner as Alyssa's matchup navigates the screen. But while that guard is trying to show on Alyssa, they just know they're kind of at her mercy. So now they're just starting to flop. So you see Lexi Brown in the third quarter. She slides into position into her show part of the show and recover coverage, and she just flops. And Alyssa's immediate reaction, she just waves her hand in the air and laughs. That could have been an offensive foul. She knew that it wasn't. Initially, it was called an offensive foul. I believe it might have got challenged, and the Mercury also won that one. But just generally speaking, she just loves the contact part of the game, and she loves when players try to kind of find ways to navigate taking that contact from her, even if they might be initiating it. She just loves that part of the game. But here's Alyssa Thomas speaking to inverted pick and roll, as well as the spacing around that action and how that spacing allowed for her to operate the ways in which she did tonight.
Yeah, setting a guard up there, see whether or not they're going to switch or jump out, and to have the luxury of all those shooters around, it just really gives you the open paint. Post players aren't used to navigating screens, that's something you see with guards. So, with this offense, it really tests the defense to see how they're going to guard, and despite whatever they do, we have a lot of reads out of it.
So that part in the middle and towards the end where she was talking about making the defense kind of have to work. And that's the pressure that I'm talking about. Whether it's pressure from Alyssa initiating pick and roll from the spaces on the court that she does, and the unique ways that it puts a guard in compromise and kind of reverses the roles of a guard and a big in terms of trying to guard a pick and roll. Add that on top of that with the spacing and who's spaced where within their actions, their ability to kind of tilt the court as action is happening to take away help defenders and carve out space for Alyssa to drive. They can do the same thing with Satou Sabally. The movement of the basketball and how it puts teams in compromise. We saw so much of all of these things kind of happening, honestly, sometimes even in one possession. And then you add to that dynamics like Sammy Wickham, who got going in the second half. She knocked down 3 threes. And the ways in which she can knock down shots in a catch-and-shoot standstill variety, but also getting off of dynamic touches where she might get stagger screens or things like that. And she's able to shoot off of high movement. Just those little things and all of those dynamics kind of parlaying into one made for a very engaging and impactful and productive style of play on offense. And I think Nate probably mentioned it best post-game when he said he was very impressed with their ability to accept adversity in terms of the injury and parlay that accepting of adversity into execution of a game plan. And we saw just that tonight.
You had me panicking that we had to change the coaching challenge tracker. I had to go check to make sure that he didn't challenge 2 times.
Excuse me. That was Seattle that challenged that. I misspoke when I said that. That was Seattle that challenged that. The original call was a block. Noah Quinn and company challenged it. That was when I think might have been in the third quarter when they were on this 13-3 run that we talked about earlier. But Noel challenges it. And Lexi Brown, in addition to them losing the challenge, gets the technical foul. So it's just kind of things parlaying into one another going against the Seattle Storm. But yeah, that's what happened in that specific situation.
I'm sorry to side note, but I couldn't believe we were watching Lexi Brown play basketball in 2025. Literally, congrats to her for just making it back to the court. I was so excited that she was actually playing on a team for hopefully a full season. I was amped to see her play so many minutes and play. I know probably wasn't the outcome she wished for, but it was definitely a sight to see her back on the court for an official time with a good team as well. But back to Alyssa Thomas. Yeah, the way that she was able to do everything she was able to do tonight was very impressive, and I'm glad that Nate Tibbetts is allowing her to play her game, because it's very important when she's the type of player with the IQ that she has to be able to go out there and do things the way she knows how to do things. And she's quite the veteran for a team that is so young. She's a great veteran to have on the team with them. And so, I'm really impressed from what we've seen from her in just one game. And we got 43 more games left to watch. So I'm pretty amped about that.
Yeah, Alyssa plays a very heart-charging style of game. On the defensive end of the floor, on the offensive end of the floor, her multiple efforts, it's all just so engaging to watch. I imagine as a fan, but especially as someone that's kind of covering the sport and covering the game and the team and the player individually. And I think that that's something that resonates extremely well with X Factor. And for our diehards, for everybody that's in the chat watching the show, and for all Mercury fans, quite honestly, Alyssa spoke glowingly to the benefits and the advantage that it is to have X Factor working in your favor. So here's Alyssa Thomas speaking to having the X Factor and the home court advantage that they help to create.
Anytime you have a crowd that's behind you like that, it just, fuels you even more. As you can see, we were excited on the court within ourselves, and, then to have the crowd behind us and just as excited. The X Factor is a great fan base, a fan base that I've played against, so I know how hard it is to play here, and, having that extra back behind you, the motivation, it makes you want to go that much harder in the games.
It was also funny to hear her mention after the game ended when had the mic and she was kind of addressing the crowd. She said she feels she's happy to have X Factor be cheering for her instead of against her. And it was the tone that she said it with that was hilarious, because it was very much kind of letting people know that she did not like when it was going against her, and she's loving it now that it's obviously working in tandem with her to get these wins and to play the style of basketball that they're hoping to.
Well, and the best part of that is Kalia gave essentially a copy-paste speech last season at the season opener when she hits it's just incredible stuff. You can't write movies better than this, you know what I mean?
This is true, and if it was a movie and Nick Urin and Nate Tibbetts and company were hoping to write a script for one, obviously the injuries would certainly not be involved, but the final result and the ways in which they went about doing so to start this 2025 season, and not just the 2025 season, because it's bigger than just this season and this moment, to start this new era, this foreign territory for this Mercury franchise without the likes of Brittany Griner and obviously, and even more so, Diana Taurasi. To be spearheading this new era, this evolution, this new era of basketball in the Mercury context without those two, and to have done what they did tonight, it really just speaks to what they're establishing and what they're hoping to get to.
Well, to say that I'm jazzed about what's to come for this Mercury team is a mere understatement. I mean, you've been hearing me just itch with excitement for the last 4 weeks in studio and around the studio.
4 weeks.
I've
Only
been
4
amped.
weeks.
I feel like every time I come in here,
you underselling it. More like 4 months. Since free agency, since they got Satou, it's been a different type of tone from Erica when she hopped on the microphone for our podcast. And then you double down and you add Alyssa Thomas on top of all of that too. The tone's been very different, and it's been rightfully so.
And can you see why? Maybe Erica proved her ball know her knowledge tonight when, the Mercury stepped out the way they did, because Erica's been saying, oh, this team's going to be top notch, and nobody's listened to me all season. Everybody kept telling me, oh, they need a point guard. They need a point guard. They need a point guard. I'll be darned. Did they need a point guard that darn bad or not?
Well, they did, and that's why they went and got Alyssa Thomas.
Well,
She's not a traditional point guard, but she very much plays a lot of point guard, and you see why, and you see the type of pressure that it puts on the defense. Like, this is a Seattle Storm defense that's going to finish no less than top 5 in the league. And you saw what the Mercury were able to do to them without their best offensive player in Kalia Copper, or at worst 1B offensive player in Kalia Copper.
At worst.
If that doesn't tell you everything that they're working towards and everything that they're going to be, to do that to that defense in particular with that group of personnel, they have legit 5 players in their starting lineup that all of them could very well finish the season on all WNBA first team or second team on defense. In fact, every last one of those players has done that over the course of their career, multiple times almost. So to do that, what they did offensively, to do that to that team defensively, that speaks a ton. And they're still just scratching the surface of the offense. The defense is way ahead of their offense right now, as it should be.
Well, before we get out of here, have I forgotten anything?
I don't think so, unless there was any other players you wanted to speak about.
No, but I do got something loaded for us in the gun, if you will. And so the Phoenix Mercury, I want to say something. I don't know if they got a new social admin. I don't know. I feel like a lot of teams upgraded in the social department over the offseason. The Phoenix Mercury uploaded this meme about 15 to 20 minutes ago, and I'm going to close with this. Alyssa Thomas with the exit sign. And if you watched today's game, which I'd imagine you probably did considering you're watching our post-game show, you would know that there was a player that was reiterating the point to the exit sign many a times throughout the multitude of hours of this basketball game. And so with Phoenix Mercury to yank out that exit meme, like I said, Oscar award-winning movie. That's the right awards, right? They win Oscars, not Grammys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Emmy TV show, Grammy music, Tony theater.
It could be a Tony too. Either a Tony or an Oscar. Either way, it was quite the production from the squad and all the supporting staff tonight. So I'm feeling jazzed. Steven, are you jazzed?
I think jazz is a good adjective to describe it. It's reassuring to see what we saw tonight. Everything that we heard, there's been a lot of talking naturally because it's preseason and we ask a lot of questions. But today was the day where we got to see all of the talking and see what the work looked like in the regular season where it counts fashion. Needless to say, they're about where they would hope to be at right now.
Well, I cannot wait to be back on. Our next show is Monday at 5:30, actually. It's really not that far away. I don't even think there's no basketball even in between then and now. So a lot of fun planned for this season. If you're new to the show, thanks for popping on today. All of you guys in the comments, Karen K, I've never seen your face in here before. Andrew, I have a feeling you just changed your profile picture or something because I definitely know you. So, yeah.
Andrew's familiar with the D-backs chat as well.
I feel like Andrew could be Bread. Maybe I'm wrong, but let me know, Bread. If you're Andrew, I would like to know. But lots of new people in the comments today, so shout out to all of you guys for tapping in with us. I love doing this post-game show. It was a lot of fun. It's nice to have real basketball to talk about.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with that.
I mean, and so this is your seasonally reminder to keep the main thing, and the last time I checked, the main thing is basketball. So do remember that. But I'm excited to lock in for a really fun season of Mercury basketball, as well as all the other WNBA teams that are going to be popping out this season, because it's all 13 of them going to be popping out. So let's lock in, have a really fun season. I don't think I've forgotten anything. So without further ado, leave a like, 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, and subscribe to PHX Sports. Become a diehard. Actually, I have forgotten something because become a freaking diehard. We had some diehard content go up over the weekend. I ain't gonna say I I pulled some plugs, you know. I pushed some buttons, maybe. Oh, Kevin, play the sound. Play the sound.
Which sound?
Any sound. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, become a diehard so you can listen to that top 25 WNBA players ranking. You know, you can roast Erica in the comments. You can't roast Erica in the comments if you're not a diehard. So click the first link in the description. Become a diehard today. You get a super cool free t-shirt, diehard membership card. Literally, what more can you ask for? You get access to the Discord with me, Kevin, Damon, Steven, Gerald, Eric, Ruby. Who else is in there? Everybody. Leah, Shane.
Gerald's baby.
Yeah, Gerald's
I
baby
think.
is now in there. I mean, basically, the whole valley is in the diehard Discord challenge or lounge, not challenge. My goodness. Ugh. Erica has no verbal typos. Challenge impossible. But anyways, thank you guys all for tapping in with us. It's been a blast, and we will see you guys on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.